Welcome to the Donlon Report. We start with a question. Have we become too sensitive? How do we collectively decide what's offensive? And is it offensive enough to remove a book from school curriculum? That's the pulse of America. And we start with the school board outside Seattle. It decided to remove To Kill a Mockingbird from the 9th grade curriculum. It was deemed racially insensitive after some students complained it made them uncomfortable. But isn't that at least part of the point of teaching it? In Tennessee, a Pulitzer Prize-winning graphic novel about the experiences of Holocaust survivors was removed from an 8th grade curriculum, the school board voting unanimously over concerns of rough, objectionable language and a drawing of a nude woman among the book's many animations. Don't forget this either, Dr. Seuss, 6 of his books pulled by the publisher last year due to offensive images and characterizations. And there's also critical race theory, CRT. Do you know exactly what it is and what's so bad about it that conservatives want to ban it? Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. But if we withhold information, are we teaching anyone, especially our children, anything? And it's not just education. Minnie Mouse is ditching her red dress for a pantsuit. Disney calls it progress for a new generation. Neil Young's wish has been granted, by the way. Spotify removing his music from the platform because he doesn't agree with podcaster Joe Rogan, and he said you can't have them both. Young said it was Rogan or him. Turns out it's Rogan. And the e-newsletter site Substack, accused of spreading COVID misinformation recently, just put out a statement defending the free flow of ideas. An important principle for us is defending free expression, even for stuff we personally dislike or disagree with. We understand principles come at a cost. Matt Taibbi writes for Substack and always brings a common sense view of things. We're also joined by Kimberly Jones, an activist and author. She's written the book, How We Can Win. It's great to have you both. Matt, let's start with you. As we talked about this subject today, the same question came up. Are we too sensitive?
I mean, I don't know. I think we've always had these issues with, especially with school districts that have decided that this or that book, violates their standards or local standards. I went to high school in Concord, Massachusetts, where in 1885, the school library banned Huckleberry Finn. And so this happens from time to time. Unfortunately, it's part of democracy. You elect school boards and they make decisions about what teachers do and do not teach. I'm against all the decisions that you mentioned today about Maus and To Kill a Mockingbird. But it's part of the trade-off that there are levels of this, and there's a difference between banning something from a library and removing something from a curriculum, in my opinion.
Well, which is what we had in Washington. Kimberly, let's bring you in on this, because the other question that we had was, what are we afraid of? I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird is considered one of the greatest American novels ever. Do you think we should be teaching it?
I think growth comes from discomfort, right? And so if we're not putting our kids in a position where they can grow from learning, I think we're doing them a disservice. Do I think we need to expand the canon at schools? Absolutely. There are new books that have been added to the canon that tackle these issues, that are more relevant, that the kids are more attracted to, and they can learn these same lessons wholeheartedly. But at the same time, as an author, there's no way I can get on board with banning books, especially when we're talking about the ability to grow our kids through difficult conversations.
Matt, it seems to me that at least some of this concern may be age-related. And as I've heard other news outlets cover this, they talk about it being inappropriate for children. Some of these curriculums were 8th, 9th grade. Where do we draw the line? I mean, how do we collectively decide what's offensive and what then? Should we maybe wait until the kids are a little bit older and maybe have a little more life experience and can appreciate these stories, because they are kind of heavy reads?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's in a matter of individual choice a little bit. It's a little less surprising to see, a town in Tennessee maybe object to a naked image for 8th graders. It might be completely different in the estimation of a school board in Seattle or New York City. In general, the question of when you want to start treating kids as adults is a difficult one, although I would argue that To Kill a Mockingbird is a book that you can teach to pretty young children, and they should be able to handle it.
And understand it. Kimberly, to your point, our history, as I thought about this today, really teaches us not only where we were and where we've been and how far we've come, but in many ways where we are now as a result. And it seems like that should be encouraged, not hidden.
That should definitely be encouraged. You have to be able to see the through line of the arrival or where we are. And let me also be clear, there has been a myriad of studies that have been done that showcase literature actually nurtures empathy when read, particularly when read by children. And so a lot of the really difficult and hard conversations that are had in some of the books that are being banned, actually allowing kids to read that book allows them to nurture empathy, for their fellow man. I don't think that we're necessarily getting more sensitive. I think we're getting more conscious of the way the things that we do, say, and present affect the people that are around us. But at the same time, that is not an excuse to run away from the hard conversations that kids are really capable of having. We really underestimate the conversations that they're having amongst themselves on their own. And the book can be a great portal into having these difficult conversations.
Very well said. Matt, let's bring you in on the Substack situation. We touched on it in the open there. They're being, I guess, catching some heat for being a platform for science denialists. And Substack is saying that they're going to stand by free speech even if they don't like it or don't agree with it. Are you worried at all about where this goes and what, in the end, as we said, should be maybe at least policed or not censored, but, some sort of a disclaimer on it?
I'm not worried because I know that the executives at Substack are very committed to free speech. Look, the principle here is the most dangerous kind of misinformation is always official misinformation. And the only antidote to official misinformation is an absolutely free press. And that includes allowing mistakes. There was a famous writer, Isaac Babel, one of my heroes, a Russian, who he talked about the Soviet Union. They haven't taken away any of our rights except for the right to write badly, except that's actually quite a very important right. In order to get to the right place, you need to make mistakes, and society needs to have open discussions about everything. I know a lot of people disagree with that point of view, but unless you have an absolutely free press, you don't know who to trust. And if you ban everything, people will be more suspicious.
Yeah, you've both made great points here, and it's what we wanted to talk about. These things, really, as controversial as they are, make us think and make us maybe challenge our beliefs and, in the end, debate, which is a good thing. Two great voices to start us off. Matt Taibbi, always good to see you, and it's good to have Kimberly Jones with us as well, author. And we wish you best with your new book, How We Can Win. Take care.
Thank you.
We have some breaking news out of Houston that we've been following here at NewsNation. A gunman accused of shooting 3 police officers has reportedly now been shot at a separate location. Houston PD saying shots were fired after a vehicle pursuit came to an end when the suspect crashed. All 3 officers are recovering in the hospital in stable condition. We will keep you updated, but the latest breaking news out of Houston is that gunman accused of shooting the 3 police officers has been shot at a separate location. A new bill in Arizona is aiming to place limits on when the public can record video of police officers at work. That bill would make it illegal to record police activity without the officer's permission unless the camera is at least 15 feet away. But if we've learned anything in recent years, it's that bystander video has changed the game in police accountability and much more. Just last year, for example, former Minneapolis officer Derek Chauvin charged with murder, largely because of cell phone video capturing the moments leading up to George Floyd's death. Joining me now for more, former federal and state prosecutor and friend of the show, Pat Brady. Normally he's with us in studio, but he's out in San Diego on business. And a little bit of pleasure on
Joe, you're a lot better looking on Zoom.
Hey, don't rub it in, man, because I know the weather is making you funny out there. But listen, this thing in Arizona seems to me like it's fraught with problems. I mean, how do you control people videotaping things on a sidewalk?
You can't. And the First Amendment's not going to allow this. I don't see it being constitutional. The reality is a lot of legislation gets filed by legislators just to get the headlines they don't ever intend on becoming law. I don't see how this works. I mean, your reporter, Joe, you can take your camera and put it wherever you want as long as you're not interfering with the officers and their lawful duties. So I don't think this goes anywhere, but you do make a great point. The video has probably been the biggest change in law enforcement and policing going back to 1991 with Rodney King in my lifetime, certainly.
Right. So the ACLU is even opposing this, Pat. And the first thing you mentioned that we all thought about was the First Amendment. So we wondered, too, 15 feet from an officer. First of all, I mean, where does that even come into play? But it makes you wonder, what about people who are in their car and want to record a traffic stop, say, for example? They wouldn't be able to do that?
Yeah, it's completely unworkable. You know, I did a circle of law enforcement folks today, kind of all over the country, to see if any big departments have even thought about this. And most of them are like, I don't care what they do with these cameras. All these police officers now have body cams. They know everything that they do, and every aspect of their job is recorded. And they don't really care about these people shooting with their cameras. They expect that, as long as they're not getting in the way with them trying to get their job done.
Right. So many cases, Pat, that we touched on the way in here, and we just touched on one, George Floyd, of course, but have turned on video. And not just, I guess, cases involving police, but other cases. We saw it with Rittenhouse. We saw it with Ahmaud Arbery. These are game changers, because instead of guessing or wondering what happened, now we can see it, and we've seen it in case after case.
Yeah, and I think, too, on the flip side of that, I think it's been a game changer insofar as protecting police. We had a shooting in Chicago about a year ago where we saw the body cam of the police officer, and we saw actually what he saw at the time in a shooting that otherwise might have been elevated beyond not charging with anything. The officer was rightfully found to have behaved appropriately. So I think all this video camera shedding this light on how police operate has been actually a good development for a lot of good police officers who are just trying to do their jobs. Hey,
while we have you, Pat, this Ethan Crumbley story, the accused school shooter in Michigan, just today his lawyers decided that they were going to plead insanity. And it seems like on the surface, Pat, that seems like the logical and obvious decision here, because, and again, I don't know where the line is on insanity versus mental illness, but this kid obviously has a lot of issues.
It's very difficult under Michigan law to acquit someone on an insanity defense. He's going now to a psychiatrist to be evaluated, and less than 10% of those evaluations come back finding the individual to be insane to the level where he's not criminally culpable. The insanity defense, there was too much premeditation, too much planning, too much thought going into this, in my opinion, for an insanity defense to actually be effective. They're going to try it, but I'd be surprised if this is very effective. At
the same time, Pat, he's hallucinating, he's seeing things, he's telling his parents he's depressed. It almost sounded to me that the case is being made for the insanity defense, which, to your point, will probably be a little bit harder to pursue, but it almost sets up like a more, I guess, problematic situation for these two parents.
Yeah, parents are in trouble. They've been charged with involuntary manslaughter. They knew what was going on. They gave the kid, or let the kid have access to the gun. You know, the school board, the school administration's on the hook too. This is a terrible situation. We talked about when it broke about how people that got signals on this kid and didn't take action, in particular the parents that actually arguably hid the kid. So bad all the way around. But the focus, you can't mix the cases. I think the focus will be on the defendant here, not on the parents. And whatever happens with him probably won't have a whole lot of bearing on what happens with them.
All right. Pat Brady, good to see you again. Always enjoy the time. Take care.
Thanks. See you.
You can catch more on this story actually tonight. On Balance with Leland Vittert. Leland's going to be speaking with the state rep who backed that Arizona bill we told you about, videotaping police officers. That's at 7 Eastern, 6 Central tonight.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first Black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
President Biden today talking about filling the Supreme Court seat left behind by Justice Stephen Breyer, who officially announced his plans to retire. Breyer, appointed to the court by Bill Clinton in 1994, has been facing calls from the left to retire for months now, so President Biden can appoint his replacement while Democrats still control the Senate. Joining me now for more on this, the Washington Post's Mark Fisher and the Federalist's Emily Jasinski. There's a lot to talk about here, guys, but Mark, let's start with you. And I want to talk about term limits, age limits. Should these be lifetime appointments for the Supreme Court? And I ask because it would certainly energize elections a lot more, knowing what's at stake if they were to institute something like that. I know it probably won't happen, but.
Well, it probably won't happen, but it is something of a shift in our history when the rules were made and when the founders decided that Supreme Court justices should serve a life able to spend their entire life on the court, people lived a lot fewer years than they do now. So we really do have, thanks to medical and scientific advances, 20 or 30 years longer lives than we once did. No one anticipated that people would stay on the court into their 80s. And so we now have an elderly court, just as we have something of a gerontocracy in American democracy. In Congress, in the White House, the last two presidents in their 70s. And so this is a change in the way we've structured our society. We didn't seek that change, it's just kind of happened. But it's highly unlikely that that would be changed because it would require a constitutional amendment. And it is something that I think a lot of people feel that's among the least of the problems facing the Supreme Court right now, which is a troubled institution.
Fair enough. Emily, we always enjoy getting your voice on these things. Let me just ask you, not necessarily for the Supreme Court, but in politics in general, how do we get younger candidates involved and in office?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that was just said. And I'll add, I think another idea that's often floated is actually age caps. So in the same way that we have a minimum age that people have to be to run for Congress and to serve in different office, you would have a maximum age that somebody can be. And now I don't think I personally agree with that. I think actually the way the court works right now brings a certain stability that we want and we sort of crave in that particular institution. Right. And that's another thing to remember when we're talking about sort of Congress and state houses, et cetera, there's a sort of advantage and disadvantage, right? The advantage is you get sort of the whippersnapper, or the disadvantage is you get the whippersnappers coming in and they lack a lot of institutional knowledge that people, as much as the left currently hates Dianne Feinstein, actually really do have. They know the way things work. Now, on the other hand, once you get past a certain age, obviously we know this just from common sense, your faculties start to decline, and that happens at different times for some people than others. So there's a lot to weigh on this, but if ever there were a time for someone to make a serious sort of thrust to implement term limits, whether it's on a state level or congressional level, it would be right now because as has been said, we have elderly leadership in this country.
But they are continuing to run. And you just saw Nancy Pelosi there, who announced she will as well. Mark, Emily just brought up a bunch of interesting points that I want to get to with you, but let's first listen to this clip from South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn, who was asked about term limits. Here's what he said. You know, trying to run against a James Clyburn or a Nancy Pelosi, Mark, that's part of what Emily, I think, is getting at here. And the other thing that she mentioned, which is true, too, is that a lot of these longtime lawmakers, you know, they have power and they have the ability to get a lot of things for their local districts that a newcomer, they would give up, these committee positions and things like that. I mean, I think the thought is that throw the bums out, just not my bum.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the classic American attitude toward Congress. We hate Congress, but we like our congressman or woman. And so that explains why people keep getting elected, even when sometimes their faculties are not what they once were. On the other hand, we've had quite elderly members of the Senate who have done some of their most important work in the latter years of their career, whether that be Bob Dole or Pat Leahy or Teddy Kennedy or Joe Biden. Right. So there are advantages to having people stick around, especially in a system that is so based on seniority. But the real question here for me is why aren't we seeing a younger generation replacing some of these older folks as they leave Congress? And that has a lot to do with the way in which our society has changed, the diminution of involvement in local affairs. Or the internet drives us all to think nationally rather than locally. And so people aren't getting involved at that grassroots level to nearly the extent that they did when these older politicians started out decades ago.
Emily, I just have 10 seconds left, but I want to give you the last word. Critics say we have term limits every election.
Yeah, well, that's true. And everything that was just said about community is true. People have less of a stake in their own communities, and so they're less interested in running to represent those communities. Everything has been nationalized. Technology is advancing so rapidly. So it opens a sort of Pandora's box of difficult problems, and I think people are starting to really address them.
Washington Post Mark Fisher and the Federalist Emily Jashinsky. Great to have you both tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
The accused Michigan school shooter, Ethan Crumbley, facing 24 charges, including 4 counts of first-degree murder. More on his legal team's plan of defense. We talked about it a minute ago with Pat Brady. You'll hear more tonight on NewsNation Prime with Marnie Hughes, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Meantime, the city of San Diego wants payback over the Chargers bolting town 5 years ago. How much are they looking for? We'll ask the lawyer behind the suit. Plus, Odell Beckham Jr. of the Rams wanted his new contract paid in Bitcoin. Wait till you hear how much less he's making as a result of that decision. Ahead. Ahead of this weekend's big AFC and NFC championship games, one superstar wide receiver might be regretting his bet on Bitcoin. When Odell Beckham Jr. signed with the Rams in November, he decided to take his $750,000 salary in Bitcoin. At the time, Bitcoin had seen a dramatic run-up, hitting an all-time high. But since then, the only thing that's crashed and burned faster than Bitcoin has been Aaron Rodgers' Super Bowl hopes. Can you tell our producer's a Bears fan? Bitcoin down 48% since its November high. For Beckham, his $750,000 salary basically been slashed to $390,000. Now, from one LA team to another, the Chargers. The new lawsuit by two former San Diego city attorneys alleges the NFL and Chargers personnel violated league relocation policy when the team moved from San Diego to LA. In 2017, the Chargers chose to join the Rams in LA at SoFi Stadium, with both teams playing there. After 56 years in San Diego, the Chargers moved north. This new suit alleges the Chargers and NFL failed to act in good faith with city officials over retaining that team in San Diego. For more now, joined by the man filing that suit, former San Diego City Attorney Mark Aguirre. Mark, it's great to see you. Thank you for the time. The ship has sailed. It's been 5 years now. Why file this now?
Hi. By the way, it's Mike.
Mike, my bad.
You know, because that's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Well, St. Louis just recovered $790 million on the same theory.
Yeah, okay, so I was going to tell you, I feel your pain because I was in St. Louis when the Cardinals moved to Arizona, and my family had season tickets when the Rams bolted as well. So they get $790 million. Yeah,
Yes.
I feel your pain. But so are you claiming the same things that St. Louis did? What exactly is that?
Exactly. Well, the NFL adopted policies and procedures that basically say that they have to make a good faith effort to stay where they are. And as long as they're making money and they're doing well, they've got to stay. And what St. Louis did is they seized upon that standard, that legal standard, and they brought what's called a third-party beneficiary. They basically alleged that they were a beneficiary of that standard of that contract, and they were successful. They recovered $790 million. And a lawyer, an amazing lawyer named Robert Blitz, good last name, Robert Blitz is the one that came up with the theory, and he did a great job. And, you know, here's the thing. The big damage that was done to San Diego was emotional and psychological because they were here for 55 years. We're a small market. You know, we're a small market. We don't have a ton of super exciting things happening in San Diego. And Sundays in San Diego when the Chargers were playing was a special day for our families. Yeah. And so because of that, every one of our mayors, Mayor Golding, Mayor Murphy, Mayor Sanders, and Mayor Faulkner, went out of their way. We went so far as to guarantee the sale of every Charger game ticket up to $60,000 for almost a decade. Cost us over $50 million just to keep them here. The Chargers had a proposal to build a $1.8 billion downtown stadium and convention expansion. Our mayor, Mayor Faulkner, backed that, supported it, went out politically, even though it wasn't popular with the voters, and got behind them. So what we're saying is, hey, look, if it's good for St. Louis, it's good for San Diego.
Wow.
Do you
think they'd have stayed had you built the stadium, Mike?
Well, you know, there was a race. I don't think they sincerely, I think that's one of the things that one of their former operating officers has told the local newspaper that Dean Spanos had made up his mind to leave in 2006. And the reason for that is this. $5 billion stadium in L.A., there was a race to go to L.A., and, you know, they just, you know, illegal procedure. They just pushed through their own policies because Dean Spanos wanted to get up to L.A. and play in that beautiful new stadium there. But, you know, ironically, they had to pay $650 million to the other teams, and it looks like that really has put a financial crimp into their operations. The sister of Dean Spanos has sued, and it said, look, we're losing $11 million to $12 million a year. We're $350 million in debt. The only way we're able to stay alive is we go to one bank and we borrow money, and then we go to the next bank and pay that bank off. So it turns out it may not have been a good deal for them, even financially.
Yeah, a stadium Stan Kroenke, by the way, paid for himself for the most part. The owner of that's.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Listen. We'll
how
continue.
Crazy is this?
Go ahead, Mike. Quickly, we're out of time.
I'm just going to say, how crazy is this? How crazy is this? San Diego put more public funds into the stadium down here than Los Angeles put public funds in the stadium up there.
Yeah. All right, we're going to continue to follow this and keep us posted, will you, Mike? It's great to see you. Former San Diego City attorney. Take care.
Thank you.
On Balance with Leland Vittert starts at the top of the hour now, and we're talking about China finally releasing some classic U.S. movies, but they're changing the endings.
Right, exactly. We've talked a lot about on the show how many times Chinese censors change American movies, right? The new Top Gun movie modified because it can be seen by Chinese audiences. Same with Disney movies. Now they're going back to old movies and changing the endings. We're going to tell you later how they are changing the ending of Fight Club, one of the most iconic cult movies in American history. The censors had it changed so it could be shown in China. It's pretty stunning what they wanted done.
All right, top of the hour on Balance. We'll see you then, Leland. Thanks. Scores of NYPD officers standing in their dress blues at attention outside St. Patrick's Cathedral. This was in New York City today as the body of their fallen colleague Jason Rivera brought inside for his wake. Rivera and his partner, Officer Wilbert Mora, were ambushed by a gunman last Friday as they responded to a domestic dispute in Harlem. Both of them died. The gunman was shot and killed by a third officer. But on this day, the focus isn't on that, or the suspect, rather on Rivera, a son, husband, and friend who had so much living left. JetBlue Airways flew relatives and scores of law enforcement officers to New York for free for the goodbye today in what would be one of the largest funerals for slain officers in that city's history. Since 2002, Clayton Kuehls has traveled to some of the highest peaks on Earth to provide some closure for the families of American World War II servicemen whose planes were missing in action. Kuehls is a self-funded explorer who's found nearly 24 plane crashes from World War II, helping account for the remains of 193 American casualties that have been missing since the end of the war in the eastern Himalayas. The 65-year-old mountaineer cuts through thick jungles and summits rocky peaks with a team of porters in hopes of bringing fallen American airmen home for proper burials. So far, he has found and successfully identified 22 plane crashes. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.